with me. I'm going to read out. Wendy's got two questions. So question one is, I have a message saying waiting from Google to crawl ads txt file. Previously, this was not showing up and the ads were running. I haven't changed anything. Do I need to do anything? Let's have a look at the website. So yeah, you're right. Ads txt is something that needs to be crawled by Google. And that just means every so often they will check your site for the latest version of the file. And ads txt, you guys probably learned this. All it does is authorize who is allowed to bid for the ad space on your site. So ideally, when you're connected with Ezoic, you know, we connect your site with tons and tons of different demand sources, ad networks, etc. So you'll have loads of entries in there. And it basically just means you're saying to Google, hey, these people can compete for space on my site. And then Ezoic can go out and squeeze them for the most amount of money possible. So let's have a look. And it does take a little bit of time because it's not within Ezoic's control. It's not within your control for that to be crawled. It's just big G, big Google for them to check it. So I see on Wendy's site, she's using Ads TXT Manager, which is like an external plugin you can get to just automatically handle it. And I would highly recommend it just because it means that your Ads TXT will always be valid or always be formatted correctly, and it'll always have like the most up-to-date entries. So in terms of that message about ads txt not being crawled, the best way to see if it has been crawled is just to visit your website and see if ads are showing. Now, the telltale thing of it's not being crawled is you'll see sometimes like the green preloading spin on an Ezoic ad slot. And if you see the green spinny thing and then it collapses, as in those ads disappear and the space disappears, it probably means your ads txt has not been checked by Google. So I see you've got the full file here. I'm going to go to the site and see if we see some ads. Nice blue consent management. I like that. I like all the colors people are choosing. And yeah, so I see ads. So I'm going to share this actually. This might help.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want to share, like anyone who put their site in here, like they gave permission to share. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. All right, can you see the site, Life and Business with Wendy? Yeah, is that the site we all see? Cool, I shared the right tab. So yeah, first of all, you can tell pretty easily what's a Google ad by these two symbols in the top right. So we see here, if we hover over, you'll see in the bottom left of my screen, adsettings.google.com. And that, if I click that, it'll just take me to a little bit of information about that, why that ad was shown. But basically, if it's a Google ad, when you hover over that little play button, you'll see adsettings.google.com in the bottom left. And so quite often people are like, hey, I have a notice about ads txt in my AdSense panel, or I got an email about it, what do I need to do? Essentially, if you've got consent management, then you're like 99% of the way there. The only other thing is to make sure the file's updated. And then to check it, if ads are showing that come from Google, it's been updated, right? So we can see here, pretty much nothing to worry about there. That's all cool. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Short answer is you don't need to do anything. It's all fine. Let's see, we'll move over there. Yeah, question 2 from Wendy is, could you explain what to do to activate an optimization version for site speed? So short answer is not very much. You click activate. I'm trying to remember like the process in my head. You click activate, and then you get a few different options. So most people just roll with the recommended settings because that's recommended. That's already tuned to achieve what most people want. If you really want to get like fiddly with it, there's loads of extra features you can activate. And it really depends on your own site objective, right? So if you notice something in particular, like, I don't know, on Lighthouse, for instance, if it's saying, hey, you're loading too many scripts in your header, you need to delay those to speed up the loading of your site. Well, then there's an option in the site speed to defer the loading of scripts. So for most people, just activate the recommended, which is like 2 clicks, activate, choose recommended, choose the preview to make sure it's looking okay, and then just roll with that. If there's something in particular you want to achieve, based on like your own individual Lighthouse report, then just have a look at the options, because that the site speed optimizer was basically built to get the best scores possible on page speed insight. So everything that it might recommend for you to do in there, is usually achievable with an option in the site speed accelerator. But if it doesn't apply to you, you don't need to activate it. So yeah, recommended is my recommended. That helps. So Amanda, quick question. All these questions in the sheet, are we answering all of these, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Everybody who asked a question in the sheet, I checked, and
Okay,
they're
perfect.
all attendees, so we can go ahead and answer all of them.
Perfect. We've got, do we have a name on this one? I don't think we have a name on this one. We've collapsed the column. Let me just sort this out. To sort my screens out, I've got stuff everywhere. Okay, we've got a question about consent management. How do I get the consent management banner to appear at the bottom of my site and not the top? Even though Zoics are set for the bottom of the page, yet continue to appear at the top, preventing the page being viewed, CCPA. So yeah, a couple of different elements to that question. So it's probably worth clarifying. I don't know if the person is in the chat can maybe add some details to this, but there's a couple of things. So sometimes by consent management, people mean like the cookie notice at the bottom of the screen. So the cookie notice is like that black bar, and it's got a yellow button, and it says, you know, personalized, blah, 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 accept. That's just there by default, and it's just like a basic thing, right? The cookie notice in itself doesn't give you any like compliance with CCPA or GDPR. And again, I want to preface this by saying, like, I'm not a lawyer, and laws may vary by country. So if in doubt, you know, consult someone with a degree in this. But the second thing is consent management, which is what you mentioned. And that is, actually, we should have kept Wendy's site open because she had it enabled. I'm going to reopen it. I'm not used to Zoom at all, man. Bear with me, guys. More share screens. Let's go. And it is this one. Do we see Wendy's site again? Yes? No?
No,
No?
I'm seeing just like a blank gray screen.
Nice. Okay. Try share screen again. Let's try this one. All right, how about now?
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this is consent management. You can see Wendy has made it a custom color, which you can do in the setting. And so I think your question was about how can I move this to the bottom or the top? Yeah, how can I have this? So if you mean this is consent management, then the answer is that it needs to be the first thing a user sees before they engage with your site, right? So I think you mentioned it appears at the top, preventing the page from being viewed. Well, that's kind of the idea, because in most understandings or conceptions of GDPR, the idea is you need to get active consent from your users before you start processing any data or, you know, responding with personalized ads. So when you're running a Zoic, and especially when you're running the monetization part of a Zoic, it's really important that if you want to be GDPR compliant or go towards GDPR compliance, then that consent needs to be asked for immediately, pretty much. It needs to be asked and given before any of the Zoic magic can happen, because the user needs to give that active consent. So in terms of like moving it or changing it so that someone can interact with the site first before they see this consent management, if this is what you mean, maybe you can clarify in the chat if this is what you mean. It's not really an option to move it or to, you know, manipulate it in a way that lets the users do other things, because again, think about if you did that, probably no one would ever accept it. They would just carry on browsing your site. So the idea is get that consent straight away, and then the visit can continue, and the visitor can, you know, the reader can do whatever else they want on their site. Hopefully that answers the question. Come and have a look. Hey, Vishal, nice to see you again. I don't know if, I think that was a question from Steve. Did he add any extra context? I don't know if I'm missing it. Chat more. Chat. We have a chat window, Q&A window. So hopefully that answers your question. If you mean the cookie notice, then you can move that, but you know.
Steve did comment more in the Q&A at the bottom.
Let's have a look. Okay. Okay, so Steve says, so it's better to not use an Azoic cookie box, etc., and use a third-party WP plugin, as so many sites don't have. So it really depends if you're trying to become GDPR compliant, because if you look at, and again, this varies depending on the country you're in, and again, not a lawyer, but if you look at like the ICOs, that's the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK, if you look at their guidance, or if you look at the EU's guidance themselves, the idea is before anything happens, you need to ask for a user's consent before you process any data. So in my interpretation of what that means, those sites that aren't asking for active consent before you do anything are probably not in compliance with GDPR. You'll notice if you go on most sites for the first time that are running personalized ads, I don't know, any major site really, most of them will ask you straight up for consent. And there are obviously third-party options out there. We've got a partnership with a company called Ball Labs, who have a really good consent management application. I think it's a paid option though. So in terms of like complying with GDPR, it is tricky, and it's a lot of it down to interpretation and obviously what people think they can get away with, quote unquote. But the idea is you need to ask for that consent straight up. So maybe there's a third-party option out there that can be more to your liking, but I would question whether they were in line with GDPR. I'm not sure. But again, it's up to you. Use a third party. It's really easy to plug in a third party tool if you want. So yeah, give it a go if you're willing to pay like $50 a month. But I hear some of them are good, like Ball Labs. Maybe we can link, let me link this in chat. They're a partner of ours.
Yeah, if you want to grab what, like, I guess your direct link. I also found the blog that we had written on Ball Labs, and I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to share that as well. Yeah,
I think that'll be helpful because obviously the tools Azoic builds are there for publisher convenience and ideally supposed to be free, right? But if you want something very tailored, very curated, then there's loads of companies out there that you can use and just plug it into Azoic because, yeah, we're not very precious about how the components you use for your site. It's more important that they work together, right? Which is what we try and facilitate. So yeah, give it a look. Ball Labs, pretty cool. I'm going to look back to the sheet. So next question, not site specific. I'm placing placeholders in my content manually for the in-content display placeholders. Is it better to create 50 identical placeholders in content 1, 2, etc., and place each placeholder once within the main content? Or just to create one placeholder to cover all in-content placeholders? And use the same one in multiple locations throughout the content. So I think I know what you mean. And again, feel free to call me an idiot and correct me in the chat if I'm misinterpreting this. But
and this one's for Stuart, by the way.
Okay. So I'm thinking the best way to put this. The same placeholder can be used across different pages. So if you create a placeholder div ID 101, you can use it on the home page, you can use it on a landing page, you can use it on the contact us page. You can reuse that across as many different pages as you want. But the same placeholder can't be used on the same page more than once. So just add a bit more detail. If you create that placeholder 101 and you have on your home page, your landing page, contact us page, it's not really a good idea to add it lots and lots of times to the home page. Because it only counts as one, right? It's like that Lord of the Rings only counts as one. If you have the same placeholder and you add it 50 times to the same page, well, it's just one placeholder. So to answer your question, it is better to create an in content 1 separate to an in content 2, separate to an in content 3. And you'll be able to see, they'll have, especially in the ad tester app, they'll have different IDs. So the IDs for the placeholders start at 101 and go up to I think like 700. So you can have like 600 placeholders on a site, I think, if you're like masochistic and just want as many placeholders as possible. But yeah, create different placeholders for the same page, but you can reuse them across different pages. So it's not like for everyone you need to create 50 placeholders. It's like, okay, you can just create a set of like 20 or 30 and reuse them on each new page in the same locations. Hope that answers your question. I think that was your question. I think I answered it. Okay. Is it a problem if ad placeholders are overlapping? Can the AI figure this out, or should I go through the placeholders and limit some of the sizes manually? Yeah, it's a problem if placeholders are overlapping, because overlapping ads is a violation of Google program policy. So the idea, if you're like in edit mode of the placeholders and you see like the colored boxes, the GUI, so you can basically see what those ad sizes might look like without an actual ad being called for it. If those boxes are overlapping with like content or overlapping with each other, then that means there's potential for those ads to overlap as well. So depending on how it's overlapping on the site, there's a few different ways you can solve it. Usually just adding some padding helps, or reducing the sizes. So the most common, I don't want to say mistake, but like ad size that overlaps that people select is like a 970 by 250, which is the widest size possible in Ezoic without the adaptive sizing. Some people select those to go like in mid content without having the content being wide enough. So I would just say, yeah, have a look at the sizes. This is maybe like not for everyone, but I would say have a look at your theme. So if, for instance, you have really long content, because if you think most people have wide screens now or have wider screens than they used to, but a lot of WordPress themes, especially on desktop, are built with like very narrow mid-content areas. So if you are comfortable with CSS and you're comfortable with like tinkering with your theme, the ideal solution to maintain the functionality of Ezoic would be to just enlarge the content areas so that there is no overlap. So for instance, you can fit a 970 by 250 placeholder in there to test, because if you remember back to your training, education, whatever you want to call it, the more variables we give the system to test, the better. So I'm always kind of reluctant to limit variables. It's always my preference to just maybe adapt the theme a little bit to make sure that that ad doesn't overlap, but can still be used for testing. Hope that answers your question. I'm going to try and be more concise. We're going to be here all night. Okay, got a trio of questions here. Question 1, recommended placeholder positions and spacings inside content and sidebars. Also a reference website with ideal placeholder positions. So yeah, basically, I think the question is, how do I know where it's best to put placeholders? That's the question. And we have a couple of guides. So we have the Ad Tester Best Practice Guide, which is pretty good. So in terms of thinking, like, it basically helps you think in a way to maximize results. Okay, start with my top landing pages, because a lot of people like spend, and this might not apply to your site, a lot of people spend a lot of time, if you're a webmaster, like looking at your homepage and optimizing your homepage. But if you're driving traffic from Google with like targeted keywords and question phrases, chances are users aren't really going to land on your homepage. But of course, you can check that, might vary for your site. And so I always start with the landing page, which is where your visitors are beginning their session, right? And in terms of like the spacing and density, the names of the placeholders basically give you an indication of that. So we have top of page, unsurprisingly, should go somewhere near top of page. I might try and pull up a site actually that has, I'm trying to think of one that has a really good placeholder setup. Of course they all do, but you know, trying to think of one in particular. But the rest of them, like under first paragraph, under second paragraph, it's just a little bit of common sense, I would say. I know it's not an ideal answer to give, but if you think that different placeholder position types can all potentially show at the same time, So the AI is going to balance density, right? We know that. It's always going to figure out, okay, what's the best combination of ads to show for that particular user or page view. But if you have like sentences that are like, I don't know, 4 or 5 words long, and you have a placeholder under every single sentence, chances are that's not going to be the best possible way you can do it. So I think we recommend for about every 100 words, a placeholder, 100 to 150 words. That might be, I think that's right. Amanda, I don't know if the course materials say anything different on density of placeholders to content.
I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I did share that ad tester best practices guide. So I think that's going to be a pretty good read.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the other thing is like when you're putting placeholders in, like just remember that those are exactly that. They're just placeholders. So it's not a guarantee that ads will show there. So it's not going to necessarily cause like ad dilution or something because the AI will figure that all out on its own. So yeah, I would say as long as placeholders aren't overlapping, like there's no harm in adding a bunch to a page.
I'm trying to look for, I think this website has got a pretty good placeholder setup. So I'll browse through here. So the publisher and I together set this up. I'm hoping there's no violations or overlaps now. Can you see my screen, by the way? It's a site called Study Finance. Can you see it?
We still see Wendy's site.
Oh, I need to change it. Okay. Wow. Seamless presentation, guys. Yes, let's do it. Okay. So do you see it now, studyfinance.com?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a really good site, actually, and you can see all the way down here. I've visited this site quite a lot in the past couple of weeks, just like checking it every day. So this is probably treating me as someone who isn't put off by ads, no matter how many are shown, which, you know, as a webmaster, you'll probably get that as well, because the Azoic system will look at you. You're going to your own website over and over again, scrolling all the way down the pages, clicking through lots of page view, and the system is thinking, doesn't really think, but, you know, puts 2 and 2 together. And it's basically determining no matter how many placeholders it throws at you, how many placeholders it turns into live ads, you never bounce, which is true, but for different reasons, because you're the webmaster. So you quite often as a webmaster get a much higher density of live ads than a real user would get. We can see here all the way down the page, there's lots of ads, lots of potential ad locations. And so it's usually after every few paragraphs. So if we peek behind the scenes here and have a look at the placeholders going on. This is going to make me want to add more placeholders now. So we have a top of page in a few different sizes. We have a sidebar top, link units. And so here, if we scroll down, it's a few pages. You could probably get higher density in if you really wanted to. So for instance here, and this is a shortcut to get into edit mode quicker, by the way. I don't know if these are secret tricks they don't teach you on the course. But if you go activate to get the boxes and then click edit on a box, kind of gets you into like sneaky edit mode, so you don't need to wait for the whole page to refresh again. So we could probably add more, right? So what I normally do in content is attach them to pdivs, because for most people who are using like a WordPress theme, that's going to appear quite consistently, right? Every time you click enter to create a new paragraph in WordPress, by default, it creates a pdiv, which is here. See that P there? So if, for instance, I attach a pdiv to the first, second, I'm counting down 3, 4, 5th. So this is the 5th pdiv on a page. So if I attach the placeholder here, and let's just give it an in content too, I just leave all the settings as default, pretty much. Basically what the system's going to do with this screen, and again, you probably know this, it'll go through the whole website and it'll go, okay, show me a page like this and count down 5 pdivs and attach this same placeholder. Oh, I got an error. Maybe because I'm incognito and I'm not logged in to the dashboard. But that's the basic principle of it. So you can You could add a placeholder after every single paragraph, but it depends on the length of your paragraphs, right? So again, that's why I said just a little bit of common sense. But I mean, we've got a pretty good setup here. Probably add some more, I'd say around here. Okay, don't get distracted. I'll do that later. But yeah, you can always add more because it doesn't hurt. Let's see. Go back to the questions. Again, hopefully that answers your question because you got 2 more. I'll be speedier. I'm going to speed up. For site speed plugin, what are the best values of parameters recommended? Boom, already answered. Easy. 3, how to improve cache miss percentage in caching. It's like a tongue twister at 6 p.m. in the UK. Cache miss percentage. So yeah, by default, especially if you're using the name server method of integration, it connects you with a Zoic CDN, which is basically our content distribution network built on AWS. And you want as many of those to hit as possible, right? Because that means instead of someone having to go all the way to the origin server, it's delivered from a server close to their home. So ideally faster. And the best way to do that is basically to override the headers that you've got on your site. So most common reason I see for caches being missed is that someone's got like a plugin or a caching header on their original site, which is basically conflicting with Ezoics and stopping Ezoics working as expected or as needed. So I would just say in the caching app, there's an option, and you can find it, just search caching in the top right of your Ezoic dashboard, and it's just override cache control headers, and that'll basically set, again, Ezoic's recommended ones. That's like the answer to most of these is like use the recommended settings unless you've really got a particular preference or I don't know where you want something to appear. So yeah, override cache control headers. Should I maybe share that on screen so people can see what I mean? Because it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah, maybe if you have like one of your sites or something, we could do that.
Let's do it. Okay.
I'm also going to share a link for optimizing site speed with Ezoic, and that has a bit about how to reduce cache miss, just in case you end up needing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to share again. I'm going to mute my Slack. It's popping off. All the Americans are waking up. This is when Slack gets busy. Okay, pause forever. Okay, I'll share this. This publisher has given me permission to use his dashboard as a guinea pig example. So I'll share this real quick. Which one is it? It's not showing it. I've got way too many tabs open. It can't even figure it out. Here we go. Okay. So you should see the familiar greens and blues of your Ezoic dashboard, but it's not your Ezoic dashboard, it's someone else's. This guy's been on Ezoic a long time and he's really grown his site from like 10,000 visitors a month to this, which is really nice. And for the cache control thing that I'm talking about, I always just use this top right bar. I know like we've got all these tabs, but if you know what you're looking for, that bar is really good. And in caching, so you'd open caching, go to the app. You can see here under values, see again, this is why I'm showing it because it's a little bit like, it's a bit hidden. So we'd edit the values and then it's this, override cache control headers and just change that to true. Yeah, and yeah, they've copied my explanation. So this basically overrides any settings you might have on your original site that could be conflicting with Ezoic. And usually you don't even know they're there because they'll come from like a random plugin or maybe like the default settings. But more often than not, just overriding and letting Ezoic set the cache control headers will fix it. As you can see the cache control headers here. This extension is called redirect path. And you open it up. So these are all the headers. So this is what I'll tell you. So this is a really useful extension, by the way, just like in general. It's called a YEMA redirect path. I'll put it in chat actually. Just to help, I find it useful to help diagnose things that are going on, you know, like behind the scenes. Yeah. So we can see if we look at the headers, so XSO CDN hit. So this, my visit has hit the CDN, which is what we want, right? And if it missed, it would say miss. So again, you just reset the headers and it'll probably hit. It might not happen immediately, but usually like within a few hours as your cache resets. So yeah, hope that answers your question. We've got more. So I'm not sure, did I answer that question fully about consent management? I feel like maybe I just gave an answer that didn't satisfy. I don't know. Let me know if you want more detail on it. We got a lot of we've got a lot of Q&A. Okay. So Amy, some of my ads open in the same window, meaning the user is leaving my page. Isn't this bad for my analytics if there's time on site bounce rate, page obsession? I mean, don't click your own ads. it's like a thing not to do because it can count. I know, like you can be curious, like where's this ad going? Where's this ad going to take me? But it's basically down to the ad creative that's set. So for most, I think best practice, you're right, is to set that link to open in a new window. But I don't think it's a necessary thing. So yeah, I don't really click like ads on sites. I know that's terrible, but you know, I think they're supposed to open in a new page, but it's not a necessity. So maybe that's something we can find out, Amanda, and I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that. Probably yes, it should open in a new window, but I've never clicked on Ezoic ads to really find out or investigate in detail. So yeah. I'm a site setup. Yeah, sorry, you can say something.
Yeah, no, let me ping someone and try to get an answer for you, Amy. That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. There is a way you can view your, I'm just going to see, Google used to have a thing called Google Publisher Toolbar. And it meant that if you were a site owner and wanted to like investigate how the ads work, where they might send users, you could install this. And oh, it's discontinued from May 2020. Yeah, I thought so. Sorry, it doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, let me just check. Because there used to be a way as a publisher you could see where ads went without clicking them, which is useful, obviously, right? There's an extension and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't think it exists anymore. Google Publisher Console, so it's replaced by a not very helpful, well, kind of helpful JavaScript. So if you want to see where ads are going, I'm going to put this in the chat. Let's see. Way too many windows, bro. I don't know where I am. Chat. I'm just going to put it there. And yeah, you can use, if you search Google Publisher Console, you can basically get like a little, it's like a JavaScript command that'll show you the details of an ad, you know, like where it's coming from or where it might lead and the creatives behind it. It's not massively useful, but if you really want to debug and need to see it, sometimes can be. If that answers.
Yeah, and like I said, I've asked somebody. So Amy, if we don't hear back from that person while we're on this call, I'll just email you directly and let you know.
Yeah, and we got Vishal's question. You answered it a long time ago, but has been waiting very patiently. When can I add more sites to my Zoho dashboard? I think you're unlimited now, right? So once you pass, you can just add as many sites as you want. They still have to be approved, I think.
Yeah, so once you've set up your first site, the site that you applied for Just Start with successfully, you can go ahead and then add as many sites as you want, but it will have to go through like a approval process. So it'll be the same type of requirements that we looked for when you applied for the Just Start program. We won't take like page views or sessions or anything into account. Since you joined with Just Start, that kind of gets waived as a requirement. But, you know, like that you meet Google policy, that you're not denied by AdX, like things like that we'll still check for, that you don't have scraped content or in another way that your content's unique. So those are the only things to consider. But yeah, you can go ahead and add a site whenever you'd like. And if you go into your dashboard in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little like box that says add site. So you can just go ahead there, but I'll also share a document on how to do that in the chat too.
Yeah. Yeah, you can add as many as you want. They just have to follow the same requirements apart from size. So yeah, easy question. Amy, when I make a placeholder, it may say 11 sizes. So is that one placeholder or 11? So yeah, again, I'm going to share it just because it's going to be easier. So this screen, so yeah, you should see study finance again. So this is one placeholder with lots of sizes. So all of these sizes may potentially show in this one location, but it still counts as one placeholder. So ideally you have lots of placeholders, each with lots of sizes enabled. Hope that answers. Next question, when I write a new blog, do I need to submit that to Ezoic or do I need to go and add placeholders? Nah, you can write whatever you want as long as it's not like vulgar or offensive or breaking Google policy. So in terms of like placeholders translating, if you remember like earlier on, I said that the system, when you see that green page and it says automatically detecting similar pages, that works on new pages as well. So if you write a new content, make a new post that is similar to another page that has placeholders enabled, then the system should pick that up, translate those placeholders across, and just set them up automatically. It's always worth checking, you know, with the Chrome extension, but it works pretty well. I mean, try it, go add a new content page and see if the placeholders appear. I bet you 20 pence they will. No more than that. And if they don't, they should, and you can add more. Ian, with a good question. Hello. Thank you for doing these office hours. They were very helpful last week. I didn't do it last week, but that's good. I'm sure that'll get passed on. Last week, Ian was asked about running out of placeholders, or he asked about running out of placeholders as he had been trying to customize them for each page. Deleted them all and did them only for a couple of longer pages, assuming that the placeholders would then appear appropriately on the smaller pages. Placeholders have appeared, of course, but they often doubled up against each other and in somewhat odd places. Certainly not optimizers anyway, yeah. I know that double up doesn't entail that there will always be double ads, since the algorithm can display only one, should it determine that be the best. And I'm content to trust the algorithm. I think this is the same question followed on. Is that typical? Or should I look at optimizing my placeholders on every page? So yeah, again, maybe I've part answered this already, but the system, when it's doing that automatically detect similar pages, it saves a lot of time and it is pretty good, but it's not perfect. So for instance, if you have done what I think you've done and are setting them up on only like the longer pages to begin with, so you're going, for instance, hey, on the 20th pdiv on this page, I'm going to attach a placeholder. Then the system's going to look for all similar pages and attach a placeholder to the 20th pdiv. So it depends, one, on the element you're attaching it to. And that's why I recommended attaching it to like things that are consistently replicated across your pages, like pdivs for content, or your sidebar element that's going to have the same naming convention on every page. There are some things that, and it's kind of like trial and error, but some elements that it's just not good to attach placeholders to. So again, if we're still on this page, am I still sharing my screen, by the way? Yeah, cool. So you can see here, the ones I normally go for in content, I'll attach them to a pdiv, just right there, which is usually a paragraph. A top of page, and this is really good because you can go like up the taxonomy of the page. So basically, if we start, I usually start somewhere like near the top of the page and then go up one. And so this is usually quite a good one inside article. This appears in a lot of WordPress themes. And the good way to tell if an element is is consistently replicable across your theme is to use these two buttons here. So if we skip that, now that's pretty good, because we know if we add a placeholder here, it's going to be at the top of every inside article. And if we add one at the bottom, it's going to be at the bottom of every inside article. So that's pretty good, because you can pretty much assume, hey, that's going to appear in the same place on every one of my articles. It's going to be the div at the top contained at the div at the bottom. So you can use that. Hopefully this makes sense, by the way. The other one I like to do is like article hash, which again, if we skip, you can see that skips pretty nicely, right? So we can get a top of page there. In fact, we could add a top page there. I'm just going to do it now. We could add a top of page here, and I hope it works. My in incognito, it's not logged in properly, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not going to work. But you see, when it went on that green cog screen, basically it was going to look for everything else article to try and translate that over. So that's another one I use. Main site main is always going to be pretty consistent across your theme as well. And for an example of things that probably don't work pretty well is like that div entry content. As we can see here, there's going to be lots of things that have that tag on it. So if you go, hey, attach a placeholder to the third div entry content, well, it could be any one of these things, right, that it attaches to. Could attach to the bottom or top of that table. But for instance, if you don't have a table, it's not going to attach. So the kind of guidance I have, if you can cut through all that noise, is try and attach placeholders to things that appear consistently across your theme. So pdiv or the parent elements that your site sits within. And you can get a good feel for it by using these buttons. If it skips nicely and skips consistently, then it's usually pretty good to attach a placeholder to. But it's just a bit of trial and error, right? Usually I have 2 pages open, and when I save a placeholder, I'll go and refresh on the second page to see if it's translated properly. If it has, cool. If it's not, probably move it a little bit. And I think Ian's got a little bit more context here. So following on from this, should I optimize every placeholders on every page? I mean, yes, but if you get a good setup, it'll do it automatically. And Ian says, as an AI programmer myself, I know that
garbage in, garbage out limitation. Yeah. Having it work with an optimized page would surely be better than one that is not optimized. Yeah, I agree. I mean, for best results, you want to optimize every page, right? But make it easy on yourself. Start with your landing pages, your top landing pages. Because maybe you spend 10 minutes to optimize a page that's viewed by like 5 people a month, right? So go for easiest wins, maximum return, optimize your top landing pages. I'd say if your top landing pages are optimized, that's going to be the bulk of your traffic. So that's going to save you a lot of time and effort. And Ian says, if I can optimize every single page, what's the best way to approach that? So if you have a particular page that you think, hey, I just want to get a perfect placeholder set up on this page and not have it translate to any other pages, then we have this button right here. So you can set up for single page only, which it's going to take you a lot more time. But if, for instance, you have a page, say you use like Elementor to set up like a really custom page for like a campaign, something like that, and it doesn't look like any other page and the placeholders aren't translating properly, just set up a single page only one. That should be fine if you really want to optimize page by page. If that answers your question, we got a few queuing up. Is everyone still here? Or have they got bored of my voice? Hey, we're increasing participants. Look at that. That's amazing. Okay. Steve asks, if main target is USA traffic, do I need to comply with GDPR? So, yes, because CCPA is a thing as well now. And I mean, a lot of people got angry at EU and GDPR because it caused a lot of hassle, right? But in the long run, it's a good thing for people because data is important, privacy is important. So I think it's only a matter of time before everyone else catches up. So if you're ahead with GDPR, it's just saving you hassle in the long run. And also, again, I don't know if the course covered this, but advertisers now have the ability to only buy space on sites where consent is given. So they can say, hey, don't show my ads on sites that don't have GDPR, don't have consent. So if you don't have consent in GDPR, you might just be limiting the demand that can sit on your site. And I'd say most people are used to it now, right? Most people are just used to clicking accept, or if you're really pedantic, you can choose the cookies you don't want. But it's not as big as an issue as it was like 2 years ago when everyone was like, hey, my site's going to get ruined if I put something in users' faces. Not really, because I'd rather, honestly, I'm more comfortable when a site asks me what I want than just like launches me straight into personalized ads, because I know that they're probably breaking GDPR. So yeah, just get a step ahead and just get it done, especially with CCPA. Matthew has a question. I need some help with site speed accelerator and caching. I've enabled both. Congratulations. On question 1, on Ezoc dashboard, my page speed score is dropping. Not great. Question 2, I have more cache misses than cache hits. Question 3, okay, let's answer these 2 questions first before I get too far ahead. So the page speed score is an interesting thing because that's actual averaged over time. So I would go to like Page Speed Insights and run your site through Google's Page Speed Insights tool, and that's going to give you a lot of detailed advice, because there's lots of things, every website's different. Every widget you choose to have on your site or plugin or image has an impact on the user and can have an impact on your load speed. So it's best just to have a look at that report, Page Speed Insights. You can just run it yourself, plug your URL in, and Google will say, hey, this is everything we don't like about your site. I know sometimes like people see those red warnings, like, I've got to fix everything. I don't think there's any site in the world that has all green in Page Speed Insights, but it'll give you like a good barometer of what you can do. And then in the Site Speed Accelerator, there'll be options to fix those things that Page Speed Insights talks about. So I would say that run the Page Speed Insights report and then go on the Site Speed tool and see if anything you can check fixes those things that it tells you about. I have more cache misses than cache hits. Hopefully you saw that quick tutorial of override cache headers, because I think that will just help a lot. And 3, the support articles say to disable lazy load and short pixel image optimizer WordPress plugins. But looks like the free version of the Site Speed Accelerator does not provide the same speed features as lazy load and short pixels. Can I re-enable these features on my site? So the reason, and Amanda, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason that we recommend those plugins get disabled is not because we want you to use those features on Ezoic. It's that either those features just suck, or they impact or conflict with what Ezoic's trying to do. So lazy loading is a really good one, because I know like a lot of people, they want lazy loading, but it's not always best for every user. Whereas Ezoic can intelligently optimize things on a per user basis. So just blanket saying lazy load everything, probably not the best. And that's why marketing said disabling.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. And then the other thing is that, like, if you have a bunch of plugins that you're running, say you're running one for lazy loading, one for caching, there's actually a really good chance that those 2 plugins will conflict with each other and cause problems. So yeah, we're not trying to push you onto something that Ezoic might have, but it is better just because Ezoic handles all of those things without any conflicts, because it's doing all of it instead of just doing one thing and then needing like 3 other things to accomplish getting a good site speed score.
Yeah, I'm Googling what short pixels are. Short pixel is an image optimization and compression API and WordPress plugin that helps improve your website performance. So yeah, if you've still got these things activated, I would say try just deactivating them and see if Ezoic site speed stuff by itself improves your scores, because again, more often than not, the reason people see low scores is that there's something else that's conflicting and just getting in the way of Ezoic working as it should, especially on WordPress, because these WordPress plugins, a lot of them are great, don't get me wrong, and the people that write them are like, self-motivated geniuses a lot of the time, but they don't always play too great with other plugins or with each other or with Ezoic. So yeah, try disabling them and run it again. And question 4, how can I get more support with site speed accelerator and caching? So my first protocol is always the knowledge base. And again, you probably read the knowledge base, but there's a lot in there that can help because I frequently ask questions and stuff like that. In terms of support for you guys, how does it work now, Amanda, now that they've graduated? Is it just like support team are there if needed as normal?
Yeah. So we have, we still have the just start at azoic.com there to be supporting you guys, but then you will be transferred over to like your own account manager. So when that happens, then you can just go to regular support, and you should be notified when you get like that transition that happens. But I am going to send a link in the knowledge base that just is basically, I search site speed. So you can look at all the articles that we have on site speed there. But if you're still not getting what you need, you can absolutely email juststart@azoic.com and someone will help you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna add this placeholder before I forget. Do that. Save. Come on.
Are you still in incognito?
Yeah, I'm still in incognito. I know.
Yeah, that's gonna be why.
Yeah. Thought I could fool it. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions, Matt, because yeah, site speed is important insofar as your site is usable for people. So I know it's easier to get like hung up on metrics and everyone wants a good score, but with Azoic and Azoic Analytics, you can actually look at the real site speed of people that are using your site instead of like a randomized test in a simulated environment. You know, you can look and go, okay, actually, even though my page speed insight score is 75, for example, most people are using my site within 2 seconds, which is great, right? Anything under 3 seconds is excellent. So yeah, go and look at the actual analytics in Azoic rather than like simulated examples.
I am just going to cut in real quick and say, Amy, I got an answer to your question. That's actually just the nature of the ad itself. And it's typically up to the ad provider themselves if your ad is, when you click it, going to open up in the same window or not. So unfortunately, I don't think that's something that we can control, but I'm going to take that down and just kind of talk to the team about it. We're always looking to improve things. So just see if that's a possibility for a new feature or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I've never really thought about it too much. It taught me something. It would be nice if they all opened in new windows, but yeah, yes, advertisers just want those eyeballs, right? And I guess that's the balance we're trying to find. Okay, Steve with a couple of questions. As Ian has said above, I put placeholders on my longest page. However, very few ads appearing. So I had to go back and place. So hopefully I've answered that because I think this was like 27 minutes ago you asked. Hopefully I've answered that. Just, yeah, you can set up single page or just attach to regular repeating elements and hopefully save yourself trouble. Is it normal to not see ads when I'm signing up my WordPress admin? Yeah, absolutely. So your WordPress admin is automatically excluded from a lot of Azoic things, which is why when you log into WordPress admin and try and use the Chrome extension, it says cannot use some excluded pages. Because as a site owner, you know, it's better to just not see ads. So yeah, just log out your WordPress admin and you'll see it. Short answer is yeah, it's normal to not see ads when you're logged in. Imagine if ads appeared all over your WordPress admin, that would suck. Steve asked, I made the other settings to yes in caching after seeing your help video. And I mainly saw missing caching, right? Is that right? Give it a bit of time, maybe try flushing the cache. And again, I would ask how you're measuring that. Maybe use that redirect tool and see if for you it's hitting the cache. And again, it might take like a day for the analytics to actually reflect what's happening in real life. So yeah, try that extension, AEMA redirect path to check on your page view if it's actually happening. Vishal, is it necessary to use a site speed accelerator? No, it's not necessary. Everything in Azoic is optional. If you want to use it, use it. If you want to use the extra features, do it. If you don't, it's fine. a lot of the speed optimizations that Izo does are just baked into the platform already. The site speed accelerator is really, or originally, it's changed a bit now, but it was basically built for people who wanted to get high page speed insight scores. Because there's really a difference, and it's sometimes hard to spell out, but there's a difference between how fast your site actually is and how well it scores in tests. Because all of these sites use different methodologies. GT Metrics uses a rubbish methodology, PageSpeed Insights uses a totally different one. And so sometimes your website can be really fast for users, but then you look at these tests and you're like, oh man, I've got like a 40. I would like that score to be higher. So that is what the Site Speed Accelerator is built to do, is to adhere to, especially PageSpeed Insights, because, and I don't think this is true, a lot of people think PageSpeed Insight scores affect your rankings on Google. I don't think so personally, because some of the highest ranked sites on the internet are slow as anything, if you've not noticed. But yeah, if you want good scores, Site Speed Accelerator. Steve says Site Speed Accelerator is not free, as it mentioned in some help areas. It only has a month free demo followed by a pay monthly. So there are always free options in the Site Speed Accelerator tool. I'm pretty sure that's right. There's like basic options that you can use, and then there's the plus options.
Yeah, that's correct. If you go into your site speed app in your tab in your dashboard, you can see that all of the free features don't have an asterisk next to it. Anything you see with a green asterisk will be the site speed plus features, and those are paid. But anything without those asterisks you can use for free. It's just that we give you like a week free to try the site speed plus features.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use Site Speed Basic on my site that I run Izoic with, and it's fine, dude. I've got a basic WordPress site, slap some ads on it. It's all good, but it's fast, you know what I mean? It's pretty good scores as well. I think the basic is fine. But if you want to pay for it, it's up to you. I don't know if I'm supposed to plug the site speed, but I'm not going to. It's fine. It's all optional. It's all optional. Matthew asks, I already have cache. Oh, spoilers. He already has cache control headers enabled, and he still can't resolve it. Ooh, that makes my help look stupid. Okay. Maybe if you link your URL, we can take a look directly, because it might be just some something in particular about your site or the way it's working, or you know. So just link your site, and I'll take a look if that's okay. Chat, where is chat? We're here. Okay. A lot of questions piling up. Yeah, link your site, Matthew, and I'll take a look. Ian, one of the things that the Site Speed Accelerator doesn't do is handle JavaScript deferral. Are there any compatible WordPress plugins to handle that? At least until a new site is earning enough. I'm pretty sure it does. There's an option called defer scripts in the Site Speed Accelerator. Check that out. I think it does that already. But in terms of like other plugins that are compatible, I think I would use it on like an exclusionary basis and say if something is not on the compatibility list, that's probably okay. I would say definitely probably okay. If something is on the compatibility list, well, just, I guess, try not to use it. But again, it's your site. If you really want to, no one's going to stop you. But, you know, bear in mind it might impact something like CDN or cache hits, for example. So yeah, check defer scripts, it's called. I just don't think it's called JavaScript deferral. It's called defer scripts. Walter, is it possible to exclude my IP address from analytics? No, it's not. Maybe. I think the answer is no. And the reason for that is I don't think it makes a massive difference. Like, I know sometimes if you've got like a smaller site, say you're getting like 20, 30 visitors a day, well then, you know, you're like 5%. You'll be 5% of your visitors. Is that math right? Maybe. So I can see why you might want to exclude your own session, but I don't think it's an option we have right now. I think a few people have mentioned it in the past, but once your site starts growing, your one visit or, you know, that single session is not really going to impact your metrics too much. And even on a smaller site, it's probably not impacting your metrics too much anyway, unless you're really, really hammering it. But Yeah. I'll check where that feature request, because a few people have mentioned that, and I guess there's no good reason why it isn't allowed, but the actual impact of it is minimal, if that makes you feel any better. Steve says, it asked me if I'm sure I want to enable it. Pre-eminent, you mean the site-speed accelerator, to start the demo. So yeah, you get, like Amanda says, you get a certain time period with all of the features. Yeah, so if you activate something that has an asterisk next to it, that's going to start your SiteSpeed Plus trial. But if you don't use anything that has an asterisk, then it won't. I think that's right. Here we go. Getting old and fit. Let's have a look. I know there's questions before that. I'm just loading up this site. We'll let it load in the background. I think we've got a few questions in the chat. Have I missed any? Are we up to date? I'm not sure.
It looks like we are.
Bang. 4 minutes. Nice. Barely anyone left, man. That's nice. Can't believe you guys have listened to me talk absolute. Just ramble for like 45 minutes. Hopefully it helped though. If you guys have got anything else, feel free. But I'm just checking out Getting Old and Fit, it's Matthew's site. Let's have a look. See if we can diagnose anything. Share. Here we go. So yeah, you've got the consent management. That's cool. We've got some here. So again, redirect path. Can you see my screen, by the way? Can you see Matthew's site? Getting Old and Fit, yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. Yeah, you're right. X's or CDN miss. So it could be some of the. I mean, these all look like Azoic headers, and you said you overrode. You press override on them already. So yeah, I'm getting a cache miss as well, but it might be a lot of things, right? Let's try again. Oh no, that's always going to be a cache miss because I just requested an uncached page by putting a random query string in. So maybe I'll take a look at this after the webinar's done and see if I can figure it out for you, because it is frustrating, I know, when you just want those cache hits and it's not happening. Loving Azoic so far. That's nice, Matthew. That's good, man. You've got a nice site. Especially topical now since gyms reclosed pretty much everywhere. Oolong tea. Like oolong tea. I think we've got a final question. Also, to use a free site speed accelerator, is it best to create a new version with the default options? Yeah, just create a new version with recommended, click preview, make sure it looks okay, and just roll with that. Is going to be probably the easiest. Cool. I think we're good. You're very welcome. Happy to help.
Awesome. We got through a lot. That was great.
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, good questions though. Like these are just things that usually once you're told, it's like, okay, like the thing with placeholders, like attachment pdivs, okay, cool, I'll do that. Once you got like those basics down, it's a lot easier in general. Yeah, really cool to see the site finally. We've done a couple of these and we're like, oh, I'm working on this site, that site, and it's nice to actually see them. Like this is some nice long content as well.
Yeah, that was something new that I did for this this office hour session, is gave people the ability to ask a question prior and include their site, like their URL, if they wanted to be able to share it. So I like it too. I think it's cool. It's nice to see what everyone's got going on.
Yeah. So I think Matthew in particular, you asked about like placeholder, or maybe it was you, Steve, who asked about placeholder density. But for instance, on this site, I'd probably add an under first paragraph like there, which is again the pdiv. It's not working for me in incognito. My incognito was being dumb. Here we go. So, you know, bottom of that pdiv, these buttons attach to the top of that element or attach to the bottom. Usually with pdiv, I attach to the bottom. Could add like a second paragraph there. But again, this is all your choice, right? Ideally, you want to add more, but you don't have to. But this is quite like a sense. This is about the spacing I would do as well. You know, like 2-3 paragraphs. We could probably get more in like that pdiv there. All these pdivs. But yeah, anyway, I'm answering questions that no one asked.